Right? And I'm not playing no.
You did share a couple pieces with me, which I wanted to share with everyone
Well,
because
what I was going to say is like the two pieces I sent you were like kind of like to talk about like normies who maybe want to get into this because
Sure.
this comic art isn't much of a normie thing. You got to really sort of be into it to want to really be in it. And but if normies who were thinking about it, like I was thinking about getting at least something maybe. Well, these are a couple of pieces I had to kind of give you the ideas of what you probably are thinking about versus what you probably should do. Is how I kind of have them set up.
See, Heidi's showing me some love. Saying at least I got a room. Yes, thank you. And Joker Voice is here. Hey, Joker, awesome. Thanks for joining in and popping in with us. So, yeah, let's share this. This is really a great side by side. I love this. This was beautiful. So I think we have pencils and inks on the one side, and it's colored on the other. Just beautiful.
On the other, this is from Brave and the Bold number 152 from 1979 from my personal collection. Art by the great Jim Aparo, classic Batman and Adam stuff here. And to me, this is what a normie should think about when they're first getting in. Don't a lot of them are going to think about getting the big piece. I want the biggest piece. I want the fanciest piece. I want the big splash. I want the cover, the double pager. No. You don't want to do that because one, the expense is one angle of it, but also it's this fact of is if you get the really something like that to start, it feels kind of like let down later on when you're not buying or when you go to look for more stuff and it's like I can't find this kind of stuff everywhere. It's not so plentiful. It's like yes, that's the whole point. It's why those pieces
are so
always
expensive.
stand out because they're not plentiful. Whereas if you get something that's nice but is plentiful, you can have a lot more fun with it. And that's what this page is for me. Is like it's just classic. I mean, it tells a story in and of itself right here in just one page. You don't even need the whole book. Just this one page. It's got you got here Bruce Wayne who's put into a death trap, and the Atom comes to the rescue and saves him. And there it is. It's just boom, the hero doing what they do. And it's this to me is the standard for what a normie should think about when they go to get into comic art. Is get something that like has good storytelling visually and has good a good feel to the images that you have. Like you see, something that I learned from Aaron Lopresti is if you look at the bottom three panels on both pages, you can see it says when you do it right, there should be a flow that makes your eye move from one panel to the next. And as you can see here with the Atom, that's exactly what it does. It's like moves you right along the line of the page with each image. And see that this is the kind of stuff to look for when when you're buying it. It's changed how I view stuff now. It's changed how I buy when I buy myself. It's like I don't just look for the splashy image. It's like look at this awesome storytelling. Look at this great panel flow. And that's something a lot of people again first getting in, you don't think of that stuff.
Yeah, that is a great sample. I'm so happy that you shared that one with us. And I want to. Here's another one. Let's get to this one. Open this one up real quick. Get back over here. Yeah, I am a normie when it comes to this kind of stuff, to be perfectly honest. So I am the target audience for this conversation. Barbed Wire. Here's the cover. So
yes, this is the cover to Barbed Wire #2 by Dan Lawless, whom I work with. And
yes,
again, this is what I was talking about, the more bombastic, splashy, in your face kind of images. This is what a lot of people will think about when they think about comic art, a cover or a great splash, because that's what you see as a reader when you first get into comics. What's the first thing you notice? The cover, the big splashy image. And they can be great, like this one is I love it. To me, I've said this page for me, this cover, I even told Dan that this is the 4 B's of Barbed Wire: bullets, boobs, booze, and busting heads. And it's like all right there. Everything you need to know about the character in one single image. Right there. It's
very
like,
true.
What's Barbed Wire about? Here you go. And this is all you need to know right here. But again, these kind of pieces are always a lot more expensive for that reason, along with the fact that again they're not nearly as plentiful as say a nice panel page like you saw before. Those are always much more in abundance than great cover images like this. And like I said, so for normies like that, I know this is the kind of stuff normies think about. This is how they view comedy. This is what I want, and I understand that. But maybe you need to try to tailor it a little bit and not think so much in terms of just a splashy image. Think of something that's like some great storytelling. Because to me, if you had a great panel page and it was framed and you had it hanging on your wall, that's an instant conversation starter, because people aren't used to seeing serialized, sequential comic book art framed. Like this, almost you could say it's almost like a drawing or a painting. That you could be hanging up, and like that seems like typical. But like a paneled image that's sequential that tells a story, that is not the norm. And so if someone tells something like this framed, they're going to be like, oh, what's this? And that immediately gets a conversation going, because they're like completely sucked into what. I mean, I guarantee you, they're going to look at it and they're going to walk up close. They're going to start reading all the word bubbles and all that stuff. It's going to just suck them right in, because they're not used to seeing something like that, being displayed in such a way. And so, like I said, that's to me is like, normies out there, if you're watching, this is the direction for you to start when you first get into this stuff. Don't try to go for the big splashy images. You just break your bank account, and it's just you're gonna be a letdown later when you can't find so much of that stuff around. Look into great stuff like this, because this will get you in the direction of like actually appreciating comic art for what it is. Again, that's why I chose the name I did for what I do, is Sequential Treasures. Artistic treasures, but they're all in sequential format, like this page right here, and that's the whole point. You want to have an appreciation not just for a great image, but for the whole thing of sequential storytelling in and of itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of value right there too, because you said with the cover, you can look at that and go, oh, that's kind of cool. Whereas something like this, it's very intriguing, because the first thing that you're going to think of, in addition to like what you're saying, where I'm going to want to come over, I'm going to read some of the dialogue bubbles and try to identify things a little closer, especially with the non-color, when people that are not familiar with comic books are really going to be like really examining that up close. And the first thing they're going to ask, well, where's this from? Well, this is from Brave and the Bold, and this is this, and this is that. Oh, I didn't know about that. Next thing you know, you're talking nerd stuff with people who may not know nerd stuff. It's fantastic.
Yep. And again, so like I said, this is how you get the foot in the door that way. So to all the normies, start out smaller. Don't go worrying about getting the big splashy images right away. Focus on something with some great storytelling, with some great visual flow. Like I said, like how Aaron Lopresti told me, that flow where it pushes you from one panel to the next right across the way. That's what you want. And just go with something like this. It's like I said, it's a sterling conversation piece. You hang that up in your living room or in your den or wherever, and someone sees it, they're going to ask you about it. It's just going to happen.
So on your YouTube channel itself, you spend a lot of time dialoguing about a lot of different things and unboxing some cool stuff and things like that. Do you spend time breaking down panels like that, or showing the art and kind of more like into like what you've learned and kind of how to assess a good piece from a bad piece, or something that, maybe some pros and cons to different ones?
I haven't done it on my channel, but I do a little bit of that with Aaron Lopresti when we do our monthly comic art convo live stream on his channel. Because we in each segment, we got the opening segment, which is something a little fun and light. Then we each bring a piece of comic book art from our own collections to show off, and then we do a little thing at the end where we talk about convention stories, like funny stuff that's happened to us at shows and the like. But that middle piece is like, that's where it's at, and we talk about stuff like that. And like I remember we just did one not too long ago where I had a Superman piece from World's Finest by the late great Dick Dillon, who my wife, it's like he's one of her favorite artists of all time. And I went into all the details about it, just like I did here. And then Aaron brought his piece out, and it was a splash page by the late great Paul Ryan, who was also a personal friend of his. And I just marveled at some of the detail, and I even spoke about some of the detail in his piece. I'm like, hey, look at that brickwork in the back. I love how he did this, because he had like a shadow, like a beam of light was crossing across the brick, so like part of it was in shadow and part wasn't. And like the non-shadowed part, he'd do little doodles on the edges of the bricks to like give like the roughness of a brick texture. And I just thought it was like incredible. Just such attention to detail like that, And so I've talked about stuff like that in that series we do, on Aaron's channel. So I have talked about it, just not on my channel specifically, though. I haven't thought about doing it there yet.
Yeah, I'll double check all the links, folks. Make sure that I got them right. Make sure that I got them all in there, so you can go over and check that out. And that's a regular show. It's pretty awesome, and you get to know Aaron Lopresti as well.
We hold them once a month. The last Saturday of every month is Comic Art Convo on Aaron Lopresti's channel. Next one coming up here is going to be on June 25th.
That's awesome. Yeah, Aaron's awesome. He's just tremendous and a lot of fun on that show.
Oh, yeah, and he's funny too. Some people may not have noticed that, but he's actually pretty funny.
I think a lot of these guys are. These guys are creative in a lot of different ways, and that's just one of it. So, what is if you can ask? I mean, you don't have to show it off, but what's like your most recent acquisition?
Let me think. What was the last one I got? I think the last piece I got was a cover image by Everett Hartsoe, who was the creator of the character of Razor, one of the original bad girls of the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a cover. He did a variant cover for a 25th anniversary retrospective in color of the original Razor comic book. So he did the first issue again in color, and it had a whole new cover on it. And this is a variant cover to that book. So that's what it is. It's just an image of Razor. That's what what she does. That's all it is. But it was on eBay. I saw it. The price was not terrible for a cover. And I'm like, all right, I'll grab that. I'd like to get something by Everett Hart. So I remember Razor. I grew up in the '90s. I know all about
Oh
that.
yeah,
So.
yeah. She made her mark. So you open the door. So what's a pretty ballpark price, or I'd say a reasonable price for a cover versus like pages?
Well, again, it would depend on what you're looking for. I mean, if we're talking about something more modern, a modern cover, depending on the artist, depending on the company, depending on the character. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into a price of a comic artist. Now, it's even more factors probably than with the actual books themselves. Which condition and all that plays a part. But it's so many factors that can play into a piece of art. I mean, you could get a cover, maybe $400-500 if you get one that's on the cheaper side, but then there are covers that go up thousands of dollars, tens of thousands even, and when you start getting back at the classic stuff, stuff from guys like Joe Kubert or Romita Senior or something, now we're talking that's stratosphere, 50,000 minimum before you even think about getting a cover like that. So I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for. But if you're getting for something current from maybe an artist who isn't say a superstar at the moment, I'd say somewhere between 500 to 1,000 would be, I'd say, kind of like where we should expect to pay for a nice cover.
And then it'll move accordingly to the character on the cover, the artist, and different dynamics, things like that.
Gets popular, it'll depend on if the artist becomes more popular. There's a lot, like I said, a lot of factors involved in all this stuff, and this is probably part of the reason why, compared to the comics, comic art hold its value better, because there's so many variables that it's hard to do quick changes over like boom boom boom. Like I said, like a comic, it's hot today, and it's all of a sudden it goes from being the cover price $50 because everybody wants that book, and then all of a sudden it cools off, and then now suddenly the book's only worth $10 because there's no more demand for it. Whereas with comic art, it's a much more of a slow burn. You're going to pay a lot more on the front, yes, but over time it's probably going to go up and up in value. I've rarely ever seen comic art that goes down in value. It's always it either stays flat where it is or it goes up. I've never seen another market like that where that happened, but it does here for some reason.
Where are some of the places that people go to get comic art? Maybe I softballed that up for you. Besides, your lovely website is obviously a nice house for that.
Besides my website, which is, I'm sure he has linked below, so you can check out all the great stuff there. 1,400 pages of art right now for you all to peruse.
Ooh, all right.
But other than that, eBay is always good. There's some other auction sites like Heritage, Comic Link, Comic Connect, and a few others like that do that stuff. But those again, depending on what it is, that stuff can get really expensive at an auction site. Especially again if it's something that's got even a little bit of heat on it, it's going to up real quick. Then of course you got plenty of dealers who are around that have their own websites and do stuff. But again, depending on the dealer, it's going to depend on what they're willing to do. Because some guys, I mean, I've seen some guys, they the prices are pretty reasonable. Like for example, Scott Crease at Catskill Comics. He's a rep. He reps for several artists, and the prices I look at him, he's fairly reasonable for what he has, and so I think that's good. But then you got guys who they want 3, 4, 5 times fair market value for the piece, and they can do that because as not possession is 9/10 of the law, so of course they can do that and they can do what they want with it because they own it. But to me, it's just that's kind of like predatory practices. And I'm just not down with that. It's like, ask for a fair price. Even if you got to want to put a little premium on it, maybe ask 20%, 25% over fair market value because you want to pad yourself a bit. All right, I can understand that. That's business. But when you're asking 3, 4, 5 times the amount just because you can, I don't think that's very cool.